Welcome, everyone, to Marketing Made Simple, a beginner's guide for community foundations. If you read the description in the attendee packet, unfortunately, we are not talking about community journalism in this session today.
That was a typo, a very big one. And I don't know who you could really blame for that, except maybe the marketing team. Mistakes happen. So if you are here for community journalism, we're sorry that was a session yesterday. It was very entertaining. I was in it.
It was very good. Highly recommend watching the recording. There we go. So to introduce ourselves, I am Courtney Schmidt. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for CommunityGiving.
And I am Chrissy Revutskiy. I am the Marketing Manager for the Central Minnesota Community Foundation, which is within CommunityGiving as well.
Learning my clicker. So to get us started, we want to prompt you guys to kind of think about what you're hoping to get out of this session so we can kind of fill in where we're going. So if you wouldn't mind scanning the QR code on the screen, and it'll ask you to just put in some words about what you're hoping to do, and then we will actually be using that same site throughout this session, so don't close that browser if you can. So we'll just give you a few minutes, and it will automatically start populating up on the screen the words that you guys submit. So I feel like I should insert elevator music here, but I will not sing for you all.
Journalism. Someone's funny.
All right, well, thank you for submitting those. That is great. Resonant messaging, fun marketing campaigns, audience. We're definitely going to hit on a number of these, but we can come back to this slide later to talk about some of them as well if we don't hit the high points. So, and thank you for testing out this new tool for us. This is what we kind of had as today's key takeaways, just talking about the basics of a community foundation. We know there are a number of board members who are attending Empower, so that it is a little bit different than other types of marketing. The role of the marketing lead and how to get contributions from everyone in an organization. We're going to talk about some very specific marketing strategies that we have used, and then there's not a conversation about marketing right now without talking about AI, so we are going to talk about that for a little while. So, anything to add?
No, I think you got it right there.
All right. So, like I mentioned, marketing a community foundation is very different than other types of organizations. We do have a lot of audiences, which can kind of feel like hitting a moving target when you're thinking about your strategy for it. And what we as an organization see are the target audiences are our donors, our fund holders, new potential donors, professional advisors, our nonprofit partners, the community at large, and then really too, that's not up there, is our boards, telling them the story and then helping them tell the story as well and be ambassadors.
Yep, some of those internal target audiences, sometimes they're kind of at the back of our mind at first, but really they're one of our first target audiences because they're internal and closely related to the community foundation.
This is just a table that I put together that we're not going to go through everything piece by piece, but I think it is helpful for people to see how corporate, nonprofit, and community foundation marketing strategy is different when we're talking about, like I said, that there is so many audiences that you are talking to a community at large because most community foundations are place-based, and just the different approaches that can be taken with that.
Yeah, just a show of hands, how many people have experience in corporate marketing or just the for-profit realm in general? For-profit, awesome. How about nonprofit? And community foundations specifically? Great. So a little bit of a mixture in our audience today. That's great.
Next, we'll talk about some marketing tactics that we have done that have worked. Of course, there's no marketing without storytelling, and that's done through a number of different pieces. The importance of a visual brand and consistency and showcasing that to the community, because as we know, since some of you have done marketing, it takes 7 times for someone to recognize your brand, and that, especially in the work that we do, that is oftentimes a lot behind the scenes, that can take a while. And didn't you tell me the other day that 10 years for a brand to be?
Yep, so if you've ever experienced a rebrand anywhere, for-profit, nonprofit, community foundation, a whole rebrand, a new logo, new colors, everything, it takes on average 10 years for people to recognize that brand. So just now at CommunityGiving, we're at 10 years, so we know that we're at that point now where our community is starting to recognize that we are a new presence from our previous brand, which is really interesting because us as marketers, how many of us are guilty of, oh, I have to use the same colors, I have to use the same fonts over and over again, and is this getting dry, is this getting too much, you know? It's really turned into, no, we're just starting to reach that community at large audience, that overall audience. So 10 years, it's pretty striking.
Mm-hmm. So before we get into sharing some of our tactics that we use, we're going to go to the screen again, play a little game. So if you want to pull up that website that we just had up again, and then I think this one lets you vote with numbers. Clearly this is a new tool for our marketing team, so thank you for being guinea pigs. But then put in like what you are doing and where you think you're spending your most time on marketing for your foundation. Oh, pretty even across the board right now. Should have had that background music queued up.
I know, that would have been fun. Do you want me to sing?
No.
No, no one wants me to sing.
A Community Foundation AI song.
No, I was, you asked me to sing, I think of all of the, like, hop little bunny, hop, hop, hop. We watch a lot of Miss Rachel in my house. I don't know about you.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Here we go.
Oh.
Events is in the lead. It's a very nice GIF, or do you call it a GIF?
GIF?
I say GIF, but some people say GIF, and it throws me off.
It's true. Clicker over here, clearly. All right, so here are a few different marketing pieces that we use, and I think we'll both talk about how they go separately. And
yeah, sure. I can kick us off for this
newsletters?
one. So yeah, as Courtney was just saying, these are just a few of our marketing examples. We have many marketing pieces that we do throughout the year at CommunityGiving and our partner foundations. Newsletters for the Central Minnesota Community Foundation. We actually do a quarterly newsletter. This is our February newsletter, and we have copies of a lot of this up here, so if you guys want to come up, you can certainly grab it. We can pass it out, however it works. But our quarterly newsletter, I'd say, is our biggest printed piece that we do. So, of course, 4 times a year. We also do many save the dates, as you see in the upper right-hand corner, making sure I'm saying the right direction. This is our Dancing with Our Stars Save the Date. This is our biggest event of the year that we put on through our initiative of the Women's Fund of the Central Minnesota Community Foundation. So it's a fundraiser that supports the Women's Fund and also 6 local charities in town. It's kind of similar to Dancing with Our Stars, the TV show. It's just made as like a local performance. These 6 dancers, they raise money for about 6 months for a charity of their choice, and it also supports the Women's Fund. So that's the save the date for that event. Just a fun way of promoting that event every year. There's a Facebook post in the bottom right corner. That's for our Revutskiy Area Community Foundation. So they have a trivia night. So this is just an example of a fun, eye-catching event that they do every year. So yeah, that's just a couple of them. Oh, Brews and News. Brews and News is in the corner. So this is a specific targeted event for our professional advisor audience. So we invite our close partners of the professional advisor world to join us once or twice a year at a brewery or a distillery in town. Usually it's on a Thursday, and we just have a short conversation about whatever is trending in their world. So it's really a social networking event for them to get together, and then in turn we learn what else is going on with professional advisors. So in March it was all about estate planning of the rich and famous, is how this professional advisor titled it.
Love it. And then a few of the other pieces up there, let's see if I can look and laser at the same time. So this piece right here is the front of something we have been doing for a couple years. It's a newspaper wrap. One of our foundations up in Brainerd, they started doing it as something for nonprofits once a month, and it is an insert into the regular paper that would go once a month to everyone who gets the paper. So we knew it was hitting that core audience of the entire community, which is really hard to do. But they did it, and there was great feedback on it. And so a number of our foundations have started doing that now. And it is that one time of, I would say, the one time of year that we have a big printed piece to your entire community. So we've really focused content on that. I'm just saying, like, why should there be a community foundation in our community? Highlighting those nonprofit partners. Normally we time it around when the big annual event is, so it's another opportunity to thank sponsors. The board is in there, so that piece has been very successful in the communities who have done it. But as we heard about yesterday, the future of print and local newspapers is kind of in flux. So some of our communities are looking at trying to do something differently this year, but I think in a few, that will still be a kind of a stronghold for a few years to come. Some of the other things that we have up here, let's see. This is a social media post for a grant round, just highlighting past grantees, social media. It's not going away, so we're on it and try to get those pieces out there. And then this middle section, it's kind of hard to tell. So this is a annual campaign ask, the end of the year ask from one of our partner foundations. It is a folded card. So some of them have taken a different approach from the traditional letter that nonprofits have done, of more sharing the story, and then, we get so much at the end of the year that might look like a letter, and this is more of like a card, so you're more likely to open it. So that's a different tactic that we've tried to use the last couple of years to our donors and fund holders for that end of the year ask. So
this is not an ask for Dancing with Our Stars. So in this case, this is strictly just a save the date, and it's sharing with our potential sponsors, because that would be the audience it goes out to, is current sponsors and potential sponsors of the event. So it's more of like a reminder for those who haven't sponsored yet that you could get your sponsorship in, because the Save the Date has come out and you've sponsored in the past. But it's more of a general awareness that the event is coming. But we do have a sponsor letter that goes out that is an ask from the Women's Fund to sponsor that event. So there's a corporate one and an individual one. So this event is pretty much a year in planning as we started, and there's a whole committee that works around the clock to really put this one on, since it's such a large event. I believe last year it raised around $463,000, so it is a substantial amount. Lots of work goes into it.
Mm-hmm. So I would say that is one of the great things about social media, is everything on there is free. Engagement on there is free. Connecting with your nonprofit partners on there is free. Community foundations, generally speaking, aren't going out and spending $1,000 on a billboard. That's not where marketing dollars are going to help you connect with the audience that you want to, your donors and those who are looking to connect with the foundation about potential gifts or nonprofit partners. So where to spend money? We focus a lot on the end of the year, those printed pieces. We try to, I would say, arm our development team with the pieces that they need when they're out in the community. You know, our website has a number of tools on it, so that is a robust part of the marketing piece that we do, like having a tool that gets people registered for events and has our nonprofits coming in for their grant rounds and the scholarship rounds with the youth, having pieces on there for donors to come and look at. And as much as many of you commented, a lot of your time is spent on events, and that is one of the largest yearly marketing things that we do. It is that time that we are in front of many of our key audiences. So I would say a good portion of your marketing budget is probably going to be going into that event, really.
Yep, exactly. The events are really kind of key when you're talking about your marketing budget and what you can afford, because they just go so hand in hand. I mean, you can't have an event that you don't have an invite for, typically, you know, some type of invite. And I would just add to Courtney's points that really, really take advantage of services that are free or discounted to nonprofits, such as Canva, where you can create a lot of invites. Use your digital platform so you don't have to pay for printing quite as much if that's not within your budget. We always like to hit all of our audiences, our digital audiences, as well as our print and snail mail audiences. But if that isn't in your budget, go digital, because it's cheaper and you will get to them. That would be my best advice for kind of the smaller marketing budget. One person focus, a team-wide effort. So we were just talking about this. The reality of small marketing teams, most foundations have maybe a marketing person, if that. How many in this room have a dedicated marketing person within their foundation or nonprofit, or maybe a go-to person? Just show of hands, does anyone have that? Okay, so one, maybe two, three. So balancing the priorities and fundraising and grant promotion, event marketing, community outreach, all of these things are something that typically, yes, a marketing person would handle, but what we'd like to focus on today is really everyone on your team is gonna have a role in this. So, as I said, everyone contributes to marketing. So from interns to board chairs, you contribute even if you don't know that you're contributing. So board members, we like to serve as ambassadors. They really are the front-facing person who can share the story of the community foundation. What are we about? I'm sure some of you that are board members have heard the term an elevator speech. That's where that would come into play. Program officers as storytellers. So if you're in development, we want to equip you as marketing professionals to be able to share your story, to share the story of others, other donors, other fund holders that you've worked with. And fundraisers as relationship builders and content providers. So we know from our poll earlier that all of you value events and are spending a lot of time on events. Well, that's where that relationship building can take place, is at those events. So how can you really take advantage of every event you attend in your community, and also every event that you put on through your foundation? And leadership as visionaries, shaping the public perception. So I guess maybe Courtney can weigh in on that one a little bit, but sharing in the public perception of how a community foundation looks from the outside, the inside, the general community awareness of it. I feel like every marketing piece should have that in there at some piece.
Yep, nope, completely agree. And I would just add, for those who are board members in here, if you do have a dedicated marketing person, we can't be everywhere all at once, right? We're only one person, and everyone has a story. And you might know that better than we do, and so it's important to get that relationship with your marketing person, and feel free to share what that story is and how we can continue to share it out. Internal strategies for success, like we've talked about, establishing brand guidelines. It is very easy, I think, to do that in this day and age with the tools that are out there. The colors, the font, the images, like we talked about. So our organization uses Canva primarily for our graphics, and within there is a brand toolkit that you can make. So everything that you're sending out should relate back to your brand, and it should be easy for everybody within your organization to access that. Creating a content pipeline, that's just what I talked about with having your board, like having a moment in your board meeting to talk about, does anybody have a story of what has happened? And I know some of our foundations have started doing that at the beginning of like having that very reflective time to think about the stories, to be able to share them. And then having that relationship with your development team, with your marketing person, that they're meeting with donors. And like I said, we don't always get to hear the very cool donor stories of what they want to do with their philanthropic dollars. So jotting that down, I tell all of our development team, if you get done with the meeting, just jot down like 3 notes, and it's amazing what we can do with that information to share out the stories. And making marketing part of your organizational culture. If you don't think that you should be liking and commenting on every social media post of your foundation and you're a board member, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. Please do
Very
that.
Yes.
It is a free thing to do for your foundation, and that goes out to everybody that you are connected to. All you have to do in the comment section is put a thumbs up. I love that even. Just if you're out there interacting with those posts, sharing it with your friends, that goes a long way in a community and helping on that social strategy. So, anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to go into talking about AI, which there was an AI session yesterday, but we thought it was important to talk about it today because it is something that is becoming a part of the marketing landscape. And so if you wouldn't mind telling us kind of where you're at with AI, if you've used it. These are, I think, just putting strongly disagree or strongly agree will kind of help us see where everybody is at with it. So if you just want to go back to that site, that would be wonderful. All right. I'm not entirely surprised by the answers.
No, me neither.
I would also like to tell everybody that AI helped me write these questions. So maybe there's something to that.
Yes. So help us understand where you are at with AI and how it's related to marketing specifically. So AI will save me time on routine marketing tasks like writing newsletters or event posts. Obviously, we're getting a strongly agree on this. Let us know if you've used other AI tools such as ChatGPT, Canva AI, Grammarly, also high. The lowest scoring being using AI to write donor thank yous or impact stories feels authentic to me. So we're kind of in the middle on that one. So maybe we want to touch on that one just first and maybe the development side a little bit with writing some of those thank yous. I know at CMCF, our development team does a lot of handwritten thank yous. So I could see how they would, strongly agree that it feels a little inauthentic. So I guess from my take is if I'm struggling with something for AI or I'm struggling to create something, I'm going to try to use AI as a partner. I'm going to write a little bit and see how it can help me polish it up.
Since you were talking about being a partner and I knew that was on the next slide, I figured we'd go right into that.
For sure. So the shifting landscape, marketing in the age of AI. So we want to really reiterate that AI is a tool. It's not a replacement. It's something that we use as a partner. It's not something that we want to use entirely and not put any human touch into it. How many have read maybe an invite or a post or a grant application, and you can tell that they used AI completely? It wasn't just a cleanup. It was they put this into ChatGPT and they didn't put any thought into this. Probably quite a few, yeah. So that's what we want to try to avoid in marketing. We want to use AI in the best way that we can as marketers, not in a way to replace what we're already doing creatively. Mm-hmm. So challenges and consideration. Ethical storytelling. We want to maintain that I can't say that word.
Authenticity.
Authenticity.
I got you.
I'm getting over a cold, so I'm sorry, while using AI. And the human touch remains essential. We want to make sure that we have our creative power, but we use AI to enhance that creative power. And of course, if you did attend the AI session yesterday, you learned a little bit about that privacy and security concerns that we have while using AI. So we won't go too much into that, but just be careful about what you put into AI, what your company or organizational policies are regarding AI, because anything that you do put into AI, they're going to use that. It's going to continue to use that information. So make sure you don't put in private information.
Then we just wanted to talk about some of the tools that we have used as a marketing team. Like we discussed Canva for design, the brand kit on there. If you have an organization and you don't have it on there, it is a time saver to the 100th degree. I cannot reiterate that enough. They just had their big conference last week rolling out a bunch of different tools, and the capability to turn a cover of a newsletter into a social media post, into an email header. I mean, the amount of time it will save marketers is crazy. And like we just talked about, if there's only one person in your organization doing marketing, you're able to get out content so much faster than you were ever before. ChatGTP for writing, exactly like Chrissy talked about, using it as a partner. So getting the basis of what you want to say, and I can't be the only one who has those brain fog mornings that you're going like, I really want to say this, but that really does not make any sense. ChatGTP is my friend of saying, Courtney, I got you. I'm going to make this sound like you want it to. And then if you've ever done it, if you haven't played with ChatGTP, highly encourage you to. But if you go through a couple iterations, I feel like it starts to not make sense. So then you have to go in and say, okay, that we're getting way off track, and bring it back to who you are and your voice. So it's great for getting the quick things out, like we talked about, and I know they mentioned it yesterday too, like press releases or event information. But when you're talking about like true depth and heart and voice in storytelling, chat can't do that for you in the way that you can yet. So don't be afraid of it. It can help you be a better writer, in my opinion. I know there's probably others who feel differently, but.
For sure, use it as a tool. It's your tool. It's just another tool in our toolbox as marketers that we can really take advantage of. And in my own personal experience with ChatGPT specifically, I haven't worked in Copilot a ton yet, just a little bit. We're integrating that still at CommunityGiving with our Microsoft platform. But with Chat, I find it the easiest to do what Courtney said, where you maybe write a little bit of what you're trying to say. Maybe it's the first version of a newsletter intro, for example, and you want a few key points. So you can tell Chat, like, I want these points in here. I'm just having a hard time formulating this in my head at the moment. Okay, it pops something out. Then I will go and edit that, and I will make it in our brand language, with our mission, with our vision, with our values, and then I can have it polished. So really, it's a tool that just helps you become a better writer.
Oh. So for those of you who have used AI, do you have any favorite prompts that you would like to share with the group? I'm going to throw mine up there.
Your screen is so bright.
I know. The color of this is tricky. Write a paragraph about wonderful. Write in the voice of, convey the tone. Mine is the act as. Always tell it what you want, who you want it to be. Do you want it to be a newspaper editor? Do you want it to be a social media content creator? It can be anyone.
That's a good one. Mine is I need to write an intro to the eBlast newsletter. I do this a lot because I like to see what it pops out versus what I create on my own to see if I can get some new ideas. It's a really short paragraph intro to a newsletter. It's like 3 or 4 sentences every time. But I don't want it to be boring because I send these out quarterly. And I don't want it to sound the same each time. And as a writer, we can get into that groove of it's always sounding the same. Your lead is always the same. Well, we know when we're writing a lead that if someone's not interested in the first 3 to 5 words, they're not going to continue reading. So I will have it prompt, an engaging lead.
Love that. Love that, love that. Also, if you haven't used AI to help you plan your dinner recipes by saying, this is what's in my fridge, give me a recipe, highly recommend it. Save you some groceries. All right. Then we'll just go back to, these are the 3 pillars that we were hoping to discuss today. Clarity in messaging, collaboration across the organization, and adaptability with AI.
Yeah, so far, does anyone have any questions on those 3 pillars? Or anything that they want to share?
Yeah.
All right, well, we can continue to have questions, but thank you for your attention and joining us.
Here's us with our 2 cute children.
Yes.
Up on the screen. And we would also like to just remind or tell everybody that we created this presentation with AI.
We did.
We could do so many things. So we wanted to use it as an experiment. So
yeah, I guess we could go into that a little bit. AI helped us create the outline of this presentation, but it didn't help us create the brand of this presentation.
Yep.
We had to brand this properly. So we would have our brand colors and our fonts and the tree and everything community giving. So I used Canva AI to create it. So Canva has a magic button. So I put in different prompts we made an outline. To start with. Courtney made an outline, and with each slide I said this is kind of the information that I want in each slide. So I did it 1 slide at a time, and it would pop in that. In Canva, it's not so question prompt. It's more of presentation, like what do you want to create. So I guess I probably put, I'm making a community foundation presentation. It's pretty basic, just to start it off. Like this is what we're doing to let it know what I want. But yeah, I did it right before Canva had its upgrades though, because it did the upgrades, last week?
Yep.
If anyone caught the Canva conference, that was pretty good.
Lots of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so everybody, my name is Adam, with a group called Amplify GNC, and we do consulting for social impact organizations. And, I want to touch on the topic of authenticity. Because for us, it's a big one, right? So foundations, nonprofits, where they hire us to part of the DMC stands for development, which is fundraising, M, which is management, so more like board and strategy, and C, which is communications, including marketing, right? And for us, we have debated that question a lot. So is it authentic and inauthentic, right? So when a nonprofit or a foundation hires us to do that, it's inauthentic that we're punting it off to AI, right? So, or is it, so how do we balance that? And one of the things we have decided is like, 1, people pay us by the hour. So we can take 20 minutes instead of 1 hour to do the work, right? And so we can use the other 40 minutes to do more work for the same cost. Then maybe that's the responsible thing to do for a client that, is making a bet on us by using their, operating funds and so on to hire a consultant. And then the other thing that we have found is, one of the questions is, how could we make AI, how could we use AI to make us even more authentic? And what we found is the time that we used to spend in tedious tasks, now we can spend in a conversation, with an executive director or even a donor, right? We can find the things that keep us behind a screen or behind a keyboard, have AI do those things that we don't enjoy doing that much anyway, right? And some of it is the formatting into the right, fonts and whatnot. And we actually spend that time doing authentic things like having conversations with humans. So that's what we found. 1, if we are, as foundations, as nonprofits, or as consultants for those groups, we're still stewards of public funds. So still we find our responsibility to make the most out of those funds. And AI can help with that. And then 2, AI can get us out of our computers a little bit to do the human interactions because it's done a lot faster, saves us time.
and to do that. For a while, I wondered, like, oh, I'm spending so many times in meetings, but then I was like, oh, that's actually a good thing, because that's where I can contribute, that's where I can brainstorm, that's where I can, help solve the problem or think about something different. And if AI is taking, some time off to have those authentic relationships, time to build trust, then it can be a really good thing. So that's, kind of behind the scenes what I wanted to share of how we have dealt with the question of AI and authenticity. I think is a great topic.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's definitely a balancing act when you're trying to deal with AI and having it be authentic, but you also need its help to help just polish what you're saying. But I liked what you said about having more time to really connect with donors and fund holders and just your community, because it is freeing up our time. It's freeing up our time, but it's also using up our time, if that makes sense. It's a balance. For sure. Any other comments, questions, anything that you want to share? We'd love to hear just what are you doing for marketing at your foundation or within your board? What's your role? Anything's possible.
This is for the recording, that's why we're doing this.
I would be interested in hearing about storytelling as far as, so we have an older board. How can we use their personal stories connected to our foundation? And I'm still like on this connection train with the journalism that you guys have focused on a little bit yesterday, is how can we then use that storytelling with our local journalists. And I really like what you had said about, was it Sock Center that has that insert in their newspaper? Yeah, I'd just like to hear your thoughts on how to find more, to use that storytelling aspect.
Yeah, for sure. I think when it comes to having a connection with your local journalists and your local reporters, I think that's really key. Before I worked at CommunityGiving, I actually was a news reporter for several years in the St. Cloud Metro. So I was able to build a lot of relationships within the community when I was in that role. So shifting into this role, I knew how important it was to let the media in town know where I was and know what I was doing. So even if it's just sending them an email and introducing yourself, maybe it's setting up a coffee date so you get to know who the new reporters are in your town. And as we learned yesterday, they're few and far between in some of our smaller areas. So really connecting with anyone who's in the media realm in your area, I would say helps build that relationship, because we do have reporters that we know personally through our local media. And it's great when they can cover what we're doing and that we can share with what we're doing with them. Did you have anything that you wanted to add kind of on the relationship building and media relationship and storytelling with boards?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest hurdles that I've seen in my 10 years working with community foundations is getting people to realize that they have a story and that it matters. When we've tried to get legacy stories from our fund holders, and I think that they see that as the end of their story, and it's not. And so that is the first step of realizing that your story can also impact somebody else, and we need to tell your story now, because too many times I've also seen where we don't tell that story and then that donor is gone. And it's not like the story can't be added on to, right? So I think that that is a very crucial thing, and talking to a board that's been around for a while and has the connections. I think it's just going through an exercise of thinking about what your story is. I think that is step one, and that would be a great board exercise. And then what your relation to the community foundation is, that is a story. And some of them are fund holders, so they might have that extra little trail off of that, but that's what I would say to do that to start with. So, and that's the legacy of the community foundation and the legacy of the community too, right? So, yeah.
I would just add that when you are discovering these stories, the next step is to figure out how you're going to share that story. Because as you can see on our table, we have all of these different ways of sharing a story, sharing about a grant round, an event. So taking it to that next level and deciding how are you going to share that story. Sometimes that might just be a written piece that you get on social media or your website, because that's what's most cost effective when you don't have a huge marketing budget. Sometimes when you do have a little bit more money in your budget, it means you're doing a full legacy story piece that is a video component, or maybe it's an audio component that you can then share on your social media channels. So really digging in deep as to how's the best way to share that story too is really important.
The one thing I'm thinking about is how you're thinking about messaging for broad audiences. And like making sure that the message resonates across your whole community. One resource that I know we've used is PACE, the Philanthropy for Active Civic Engagement, which they've looked at different words, like do they resonate with older or younger people, different socioeconomic backgrounds, rural, urban. So I'm wondering how you're thinking about like making sure your language does resonate across everyone in the community.
Do you want to take that one?
I certainly can. Paul, that has been on my mind lately. I will tell you that. And I am also interested in something we heard at the AI session yesterday, putting in all of our community-facing pieces and having it help me pull out the tone and what words we are conveying, and is that the words that we want to be conveying. I don't have an answer of what that looks like in each community. With the different communities that we are in, it is very different what is up in with our friends on the range and what is happening with our friends in the metro, right? So first step, I think, is we're just gonna be looking at what we are saying and how we can shift some of those thoughts about what we should be saying. And I know there is, the Ohio Community Foundation did they gathered a bunch of different stakeholders and had conversations about that, and it did shape how they changed their vision statement, they changed their mission, so it was more reflective of their community, because right now language is a hot button, and how we convey our message is very important. So it's on my mind.
I think that's one that's ever evolving when it comes to language. And I think about it from a generational perspective when I'm writing Facebook posts or anything for social media, because that's our community at large audience. It really is. So I want to make that into a conversational piece. I want to make that at more of that middle school level for understanding. We don't want to get into the nitty gritty. We just want to share the basics of whatever it is, whatever the topic is. And lastly, will my 14-year-old niece understand it? That's kind of my target. Will my teenage niece understand what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we're hearing from, the teenagers, which they're still kids and they're still learning, that they don't even know what philanthropy means. That's a big word. We don't know what that means. What does that mean? So getting into that mindset of maybe a middle schooler when you are sharing with the community at large, because you can't expect the community at large to understand all of our words. Professional advisors, endowment, philanthropy, like these aren't words that everyone uses every day. So we have to always keep that in mind when we're talking about the community audience.
Great. Well, we will be up here for questions. If anyone would like to come further the conversation or look at some of the marketing pieces we have up here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of Empower. And we'll see you at the next session.
Thank you so much.